Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Greetings and salutations, and a big warm welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. One of the topics that I believe is affecting everyone at the moment is the trend towards hybrid working. Having successfully completed what feels like a working from home at scale experiment, we're now exploring what it's like for half the workforce to work from home, and half could be distributed anywhere in the world. And thankfully, technology has made this much easier. But I wanted to explore how technology can bring back some of the moments that we miss from being in the office, such as hearing someone mid-conversation talking about something that you're working on, or a moment of serendipity that enables you to solve a problem more efficiently. So today, I've invited Chris Fleck from Citrix onto the podcast, and also Matthieu from a company called GroupRoom onto the podcast to learn more about GroupRoom's hybrid and virtual workplaces and how it's bringing teams back together just like real life. And also we will explore what hybrid working means for businesses, the challenges they're facing, and solutions to those challenges too. But enough from me. Let's get them both onto the podcast right now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Hi, this is Chris Fleck, and I'm Vice President of Emerging Technologies at Citrix. And what myself and my team do is we work on projects and opportunities that are beyond the roadmap. And that could be in the future or adjacent, or it could be doing something creative with a partner like GroupRoom that we'll be talking about today.
Hey, Neil, I'm Chris Matthieu. I'm the founder and creator of GroupRoom, as Chris Fleck just mentioned, which is a new digital hybrid workplace platform. Your listeners may also remember me as one of the founders of Octoblu. It was Citrix's former enterprise IoT platform. So I had the pleasure of working very closely with Chris Fleck, actually for Chris Fleck, for some time, and we did some really cool, innovative IoT things back in the day. So it's great to be back at the table, hanging out and talking with Citrix again and partnering with Citrix.
Love that. Cool story. And I love how it's almost come full circle as well. But so much I'm excited to talk with you both about today. But before we do go straight into solution mode, I want to dive into some of the problems that you're seeing with the new hybrid approach to working that everyone's talking about at the moment, where half the workforce are in the office and the other half are working from anywhere and on any device. So, Chris, from a Citrix standpoint, what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, from a Citrix standpoint, we're seeing a real dilemma that companies are facing, ourselves included. And so right now, the situation is around the offices are open, but we've got to deal with things like vaccination status and any symptoms, and being able to enforce or at least define policies around people that come to the office. And then once they come to the office, what we've done, and again, a lot of our customers are doing, is they're changing from dedicated workstations, dedicated offices to flexible office space. And ultimately, this is going to translate to savings in real estate, et cetera. But what I see mostly right now is they're just trying to deal with it around, there's people coming into the office now, and where do they sit? And where, who's in the office and who's not in the office. Or if you want to chat with a colleague, it used to be easy. You knew where they sat and you could go meet with them. But now you're not sure, are they in the office or not? And so there's a lot of dilemmas that companies are facing around just people management and encouraging people to, embrace this hybrid mode, because it's pretty clear that it's here to stay. We don't see. It's a very small minority of our customers that we expect will go back 5 days a week, pre-COVID, unless they really have to, unless it's a manufacturing job. So we see the majority being a hybrid scenario, but it opens up a lot of questions and opportunities at the same time.
It really does. And from GroupRoom, from your perspective, Chris, I was reading a lot about your belief that you think life was so much simpler when everyone was either working in an office or working remotely. And actually, hybrid working is much more complicated. Can you expand on that?
I've been a remote worker my whole career, pretty much. And when everyone was in the office, as Chris Fleck just mentioned, I mean, work life was pretty good. Like you would just walk outside your office or your cube and chat with your colleague. But those remote workers pre-pandemic, they've never really had work life like really good. It was always a challenge because a lot of companies pre-pandemic did not know how to work with remote workers. In fact, a lot of conversations would happen, without them included. A lot of decisions would be made, hallway conversations, decisions would be made without that being communicated back to the remote workers. So they were always kind of left out in the beginning. But to your point, when the quarantine happened and everyone went remote, it kind of leveled the playing field. Everyone was using the same communication tools like, video conferencing tools, asynchronous chat tools. But the problem is that we all started over communicating, so we had back-to-back video meetings all day long. And, the chat channels, there'd be dozens and dozens of blinking chat channels, trying to get people's attention over traditional email. So everyone's like, virtual fatigue. But as Chris Fleck mentioned, all the large companies are trying to get people back in the office. CDC is saying, social distance. That means every other desk is left vacant. So now you have you can only get half the workforce in, and that's even more making matters more complicated than the pre-pandemic days, because to Chris's point, you don't know who's in, when, on what day. So you're still meeting back-to-back meetings and this over communicating, but you're also still going back to the old way of making decisions in the hallways and not communicating that to the remote workers as well. So it's gotten a lot more challenging with the hybrid workplace. But to Chris's point, I think it's inevitable. I think that's the new model of how we're working going forward. So we need a better way to work, I think.
What's interesting, I've seen the level the playing field for the remote folks, which used to be a real minority, in our case, and depending on what organization, whether you're in sales, which is pretty much, we're remote already, but in engineering, they were a minority. But so for them, it has leveled the playing field, and it does create new problems, but new opportunities. And I think there's opportunity, in fact, with the right tools to make this hybrid, better than before. And I think that's the opportunity in front of us, is how do we leverage this new, work-life office situation and translate that to a better work experience than in the past.
And from those conversations you're having with Citrix customers that can be located all over the world, I'm curious, are there any trends around the concerns and challenges that hybrid working is bringing to them?
Certainly, again, as it relates to the pandemic, in COVID, there's these health policy kind of challenges that they're all facing. Hopefully those are short term. But the longer term is, okay, what is the new policy and how do we have the right set of tools so it makes it easier for employees to schedule their time, to figure out what days they're in, how to engage between remote work and the in-office scenarios. And I would just say it's really early days. Right now, in some cases, companies are just dictating it, right? They're saying, okay, it's Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday or something, and everybody's in the office, or there's A teams and B teams, and they rotate those teams. And I think the jury's out, quite frankly, on what's the optimal, and it'll probably be different for different organizations. But again, it's opportunity and it's room to innovate around providing the right sets of tools to help people be most productive and create a healthy experience.
Completely agree with you there. And with GroupRoom, Chris, in many ways, it feels like you were way ahead of your time. But for anyone that's just hearing about you guys for the first time, can you tell me about the story behind the company and the problems that you set out to solve from the very beginning?
Yeah. So like I said, I've been a remote worker my whole career, but more importantly, pre-pandemic, I was working for a Fort Lauderdale company. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I mean, that's like a whole day of traveling. The company I worked for was not really good at remote work. Remote workers mixed into their workforce. They had requested me to travel that trip every other week back and forth between Arizona and Florida. So I was doing that for a couple of years. Now, when I was there on site, I witnessed all sorts of magic happening, hallway conversations with crazy geniuses, that you would bump into, impromptu like. You would also overhear things like, out in the open floor plan of a conversation near you that you would be getting aware of all these other cool things happening in the company, and then you could chime in to those conversations. So being on site was magical, but this travel was insane. And the company had these beam robots. I don't know if you remember those, but you could like navigate, these robots with iPads on them around the floor. I mean, those were kind of cool, but those were really expensive and in demand. So that wasn't always a good solution when you were remote. So selfishly, I kept thinking to myself, there's got to be a better way to kind of mimic this in real life experience and avoid all of these air miles. So when COVID hit and the quarantine happened, that company unfortunately laid off a half of its workforce, 1,000 workers, and I was caught in that. So, what they say, make lemonade out of lemons. It was the perfect time to start putting some of these ideas in practice. And I had kind of three ideas that kind of drove towards the GroupRoom development. And one was, to Chris Fleck's point earlier, what if there was a way to develop a new kind of communications platform that mimicked real life, that almost made remote work better than it was pre-pandemic and on-site work better than it was pre-pandemic. So that's a tall challenge. But then I started thinking, what if you could recreate these office spaces as digital twins? So they're the common environment that everyone's familiar with. And what if you could have this little video avatar, kind of this little bubble video chat avatar that could move around this digital twin space of the office, whether you're on-site or remote. You could be working together in a little digital twin of the office, but the audio would mimic real life, where you had kind of this listening radius where you could hear people, within a few meters away from you, just like you would in real life. And one more thing that I think makes this even more interesting to me is that in real life, you still have to travel, but in this new digital twin world, what if you could teleport to any office or any campus that your company owns in the world and pop in and say hello to colleagues, in the hall, or have that impromptu meeting like, where is Chris Fleck right now? Let me pop over to his floor, in a second and ask him a question, or just say hello because I miss him.
And I've seen a few videos online of it in action, and it's fantastic to see. But obviously, it's quite difficult to point that out when we're recording an audio podcast today. So do you have any use cases that you could share that would just bring it to life for businesses?
Oh, sure. We have a few teams that are using GroupRoom today all day long. If not all day long, some of them are doing like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings, or Tuesdays and Thursdays. But the idea is all of their on-site and remote workers just go into GroupRoom like you would go into the office, your physical office in the morning. They hang out kind of in the virtual offices, break room, chat over coffee. They'll have their daily stand-up, move around the office space, go back to their cubes or their offices, or what I see a lot is people work in these common spaces, like, they'll find like the couches or the lounges, like in the digital floor plan, and just kind of hang out there together and start working. But what's cool is like when they have a question, they can just speak up. If you're in their listening radius, you hear them, or they can move over and talk to someone just like you would in real life, walk outside and say hello. But what I'm seeing is in that new environment, it feels like everyone is back in the office, regardless if you're on-site or remote. And it does drastically reduce the video meetings, the back-to-backs, the chats, because you're all there experiencing work together as if your team's back together again.
Chris, at Citrix, how does GroupRoom fit into your initiatives, especially around hybrid working?
Sure. Well, there's a number of scenarios. Some of them are straightforward, just like Chris Matthieu described, the coffee room kind of collaboration that might start off as small talk and then turn into a cool whiteboard conversation on some technical challenge that people are facing. And we miss that. And not only at Citrix do we miss that, our customers miss that too. That's one of the ones that comes up frequently when we're talking about this, is what is that impact of the loss of that casual engagement scenario. So that's one of the opportunities that we're pursuing ourselves. And we can take that a step further, take that same example of the coffee room. In the physical world, if everybody's in the office, you might by chance run into somebody in the coffee break area and then have that casual conversation. But in this hybrid world, what could happen is that you've got some colleague that you would like to run into, but you don't know, if or when they're going to be joining, the group room in the coffee room. And what we can do with Workspace and the notification activity stream is actually get notified. So we can be notified when your buddy or a colleague or somebody that you want to run into joins that group room, goes into that virtual coffee room space to have some casual time where they're open to conversations with, quite frankly, it could be, again, colleagues or random folks that might be coming by. So one of those scenarios is get a notification in Workspace that a colleague stopped in, or take that a step further, get a notification when a topic comes up. And I'll let Chris Matthieu describe this feature further, but what we can do is subscribe to keywords. And actually, when there's particular words that come up that are an interesting topic, just like in the old days, right, where you could walk by and hear somebody talking about IoT or something that interests them, you can join into that conversation. And so that's, those are use cases. Then there's the really simple things that we're seeing now as well, with like onboarding new employees. One of the real concerns we've got is people that know each other, colleagues, existing colleagues. They're easier to adapt to this hybrid kind of environment where they're working from home now, but they really know these people that they're working with. But if you have new employees or if you've got interns, they've never met each other, face to face. Maybe they've been one face in a Zoom call with 30 other people, but they really haven't had any one-on-one time. And, we used to have events where we'd have the new hires get together and have, break hours or, the collaboration kind of opportunity for sharing experiences or meeting new people. So we're doing it there now too, is using that what used to happen in person, making that an opportunity for group room and collaboration. And it's things that you can't really do with Teams meetings or Zoom. There's something unique being able to be part of a big room, but have small conversations, one-on-one or 1-on-3 or 4 or whatever, closer to real world. So Yeah, it's interesting. At Citrix, the more people we show, we've got real fans in HR, for example, that love this because they're trying to, before COVID, they're trying to make the remote experience closer to in office, and now it's like the cards all went in the air, and we're trying to reshuffle and create a better experience. And there's a real opportunity to do that with GroupRoom and Citrix Workspace.
And there's so many great points you mentioned there. How many people over the last 18 months have been recruited, onboarded, etc., all online and never actually met their colleagues in person. And I think for everybody, really, one of the big things that we all miss from the office is those moments of serendipity. Like you say, when you pass somebody and they're just mentioning something that you're working on or something that sparks a little bit of creativity, or maybe you're working on something similar and you can come together. So on that front, you did mention you could subscribe to keywords to try and recapture some of those moments of serendipity. Chris, can you tell me a little bit more how you do that?
Yeah, and what's really exciting to me is Chris Fleck's team actually won like first place in the internal Citrix hackathon by demonstrating that very feature. And so it's actually kind of magical the way we do it. We added closed captioning to GroupRoom. So for hearing impaired or maybe heavy accents that your ear doesn't just pick up, you can turn on closed captioning, and then when people get near you in your vicinity, you can see what they're saying. Maybe even if you're not fully paying attention. But what we did is on top of that, since we have all of that happening in that room, whether they're near you or not. We can run all of that through like translation engines to change the language around. So Spanish to English, English to French. So now you can speak with people that aren't even speaking your language that you would not normally know how to communicate with. Now you can speak with anyone. So then we took that one step above that. So since we're able to send that to a translation engine, we'd added the ability where through an API, you can subscribe to keywords like maybe my customer's name, or like Chris Fleck had mentioned, IoT is something I'm interested in. So anyone in that group room, or say Citrix wide, who would mention, IoT, I could get a notification real time in Citrix Workspace that would say, hey, James Bullpen in Manchester, England, just mentioned IoT. Would you like to join that group room and chat with him about it? So talk about bringing a global company together with a simple feature like this. I've never seen any application do that. And really, that was a suggestion from Chris Fleck's team, just working together on this project. Just a little feature that kind of expanded into something that's kind of like this could really be useful worldwide.
And I think I should point out that GroupRoom is available as a micro app on Citrix Workspace. So for anybody listening, can you just briefly walk me through how a Citrix user could get up and running and just giving it a try?
Sure. Yeah. We're Citrix Ready certified. So you can find us in the Citrix Ready marketplace, or you can go to grouproom.io/Citrix and get the directions there. But it's really just two steps. You download and import the GroupRoom micro app into your Citrix Workspace. You request an API key from us. Just send an email to hello@grouproom.io and request the key. You add that to your Citrix Credential Vault, and you're live. The micro app lets you, it embeds right into the Citrix Workspace. So it lets you manage your group rooms. It lets you send group room invitations to your colleagues. It also adds all of that notification goodness that Chris Fleck mentioned, where someone joins my space, I get notified. I can subscribe to keywords and get notified. So with just a couple of steps, you're rocking and rolling. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. And if we dare to look a little bit further into the future, Chris, at Citrix, is there anything in particular that excites you about the future of work, where we're heading, and ultimately what role you're going to see Citrix play in that future too?
Sure. What Citrix does fundamentally is securing hybrid work, and all those words matter. So obviously, traditionally, we've been utilized for for security and adding security to app delivery. Hybrid can mean either the traditional meaning of hybrid, where it's on premises plus a cloud delivery system or cloud infrastructure. But now hybrid also means this combination of in-office workers and remote workers, and then work itself. So we bought a company recently called Reich, and Reich, obviously, if you're not familiar, has really great abilities to automate workflows and create team task management and workflow management. And there's really a lot of opportunity for Citrix to help companies improve employee productivity and get their job done more efficiently with less obstacles, and do it with the right set of tools. And again, this is what's interesting, coming back to GroupRoom, is there's a way to improve that employee experience. And ultimately, if employees have a better experience, they're going to be more productive. They're going to be more likely to recommend that their outside colleagues maybe consider your company as a great place to work, as being innovative, et cetera. So yeah, we're really excited about the future and how Citrix can contribute to that future work.
Fantastic. And as for GroupRoom, I've seen some incredibly cool virtual reality and cartoon demos online, and I will try and attach some of those videos to the show notes so people can check them out. But Chris, where do you see yourselves going from here, and what excites you about the road ahead? Because it seems like you're constantly evolving and moving with things and leveraging new technologies. But what is it that excites you?
I'm fascinated with the whole VR and XR like space, as you mentioned. In fact, Microsoft has made a comment about transitioning to becoming like the enterprise metaverse company. Facebook has also made a comment that they're transitioning from becoming from a social media company to a metaverse company. So I've been experimenting. What does GroupRoom look like in this space? And we have prototypes working where the space, instead of a 2D digital twin of the office, it is actually now, it can be a 3D metaverse space of your office. So creating 3D digital twins, letting remote and on-site workers work together in a 3D environment is pretty interesting. Since GroupRoom is a web-based application, we've ensured that it runs on mobile apps and desktops and laptops, but also using just WebXR and WebRTC, some open web protocols, we now have it running inside of VR headsets like the Oculus and the Vive. We also have it running in AR headsets like HoloLens and MagicLeap. So imagine putting on your Oculus VR headset, teleporting to a space, and chatting with friends and colleagues nearby, also in that space. Those video chat bubbles are at head height, like 1.6 meters above the ground. So you're actually looking at people in the eyes who are on video, like on their laptops, but you're seeing them in the digital world. Now, if you just put your forward-looking cap on, we're almost able to do this next thing that just really excites me. Remember, we talked about teleporting, maybe I want to go from Phoenix to Manchester and talk to James Bullpen. Well, in this 3D metaverse environment, when I teleport, he could actually, if he had like his HoloLens glasses on, he could actually see me standing there in his physical office, kind of as a hologram, maybe, or sitting on the same couch, like outside in the lounge area of his office space. So I would physically be there as a hologram that he could see with AR glasses, but I'm in VR, maybe on an Oculus, still sitting here in Phoenix and having those real-time conversations in seconds, like teleporting or holoporting without travel. So I think that's next. Like, we're getting close to being able to do that.
Oh man, you had me at create a 3D metaverse of your company. And I'm sure those words will resonate with so many people and just leave people wanting to find out a little bit more about it. And for those people listening, how can they find you online and contact your team, carry on this conversation we started today, and maybe just ask a few questions or find more information? What's the best way of doing that?
Well, GroupRoom.io, and my email's chris@GroupRoom.io, or you can look on the Citrix Ready Marketplace, and all the links are there as well.
And of course, Citrix has a huge amount of resources online. But if anyone is interested in exploring topics such as the future of work and hybrid working, is there a particular area of the Citrix website that you would point listeners to, Chris?
Well, actually, right now, this week, I would say there's a event going on called Demo Day Live. And depending on when you join, there's going to be recordings of it, but there's blueprints, there's demos, there's interactive kind of SME sessions. So just go to citrix.com and you'll see some of the opportunities to learn more right from there, because you can go in a lot of different directions. But we will be coming out, I think, specifically relative to the collaboration with GroupRoom and how to do that. Chris is going to be posting a blog post on the Citrix blog site as well soon. So I'd be keep your eye out for that.
Well, I'll add all those links to the show notes so people can find you nice and easily. And like I said a few moments ago, I would say over the last 18 months, maybe, we've all realised the value of serendipity in the office when you accidentally bump into someone. And that, has, for the large part, was lost for many months. And those water cooler moments deliver so much value. And I love that story, Chris, where you were talking about how it helped you win the hackathon there by leveraging this technology. There's so many great points. I invite everyone listening to share theirs with us, and I'll give you the details in a moment. But more than anything, just a big thank you for joining me today.
Well, likewise, thank you all so much for this fun conversation.
Same here. It's always great to have an opportunity to share what we're working on and get feedback once your listeners hear it. We're interested in learning more.
Wow, what an incredibly insightful conversation with two great guests on the show today. There were so many key talking points for me there, such as building a 3D metaverse of your company, the creation of digital hybrid workplaces, and leveraging technology to re-enable those moments of serendipity in the physical workplace, which have always been the lifeblood of every organisation. And as always, for me, I love getting to hear more about the conversations that both Citrix and GroupRoom are having with their clients, with their customers, with their teams, and how they use that information to build a new future of work. And as I always say, technology works best when it brings people together. And for me, if I zoom out, that's everything that today's episode was all about. So please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. You can connect with me on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Just look for @NeilC.Hughes. Nice and easy to find. Remember, you are what makes this podcast special and why there is at least one episode going out 365 days of the year. So please keep your questions coming in. And also remember, if you need help launching your own podcast, you just want somebody else to worry about editing audio files and all that stuff, or need help ghostwriting articles for your business, you can learn more about how you can work with me at techblogwriter.co.uk. But more than anything, I just want to hear your insights, your struggles, how you're overcoming them. And if you want to come on the podcast, let me know too. But that's it for today's episode. So a big thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.